As tensions escalate between Russia and NATO, the implications of this conflict ripple far beyond traditional battlefields. Nations are not only flexing their military might, but also employing cyber warfare tactics to destabilize economies and critical infrastructures. With China observing closely and countries across Africa and Latin America preparing to respond, the geopolitical landscape is shifting in unprecedented ways. In this intricate game of chess, every move counts, whether it's a nuclear ultimatum, a strategic partnership, or a cyber attack that can cripple an entire nation without a single shot being fired. Join us as we unravel the complexities of this unfolding drama, exploring the potential outcomes and what they mean for global stability. Chapter 1: The Current Landscape, the Economic Threats. As tensions rise, Russia has threatened to destabilize NATO economies through various means. Sanctions imposed by Western nations have led to retaliatory measures from Moscow. This includes leveraging energy supplies as a weapon. Did you know that approximately 40% of Europe's natural gas comes from Russia? By manipulating energy prices and supply chains, Russia aims to exert pressure on European nations. In recent months, we have seen how Russia has threatened to cut off gas supplies to countries that support sanctions against it. This is not just a bluff, it is a calculated strategy to create economic chaos. Countries like Germany and Italy have become increasingly reliant on Russian gas imports. If Russia were to reduce or halt these supplies, it could lead to skyrocketing energy prices and significant economic downturns across Europe. The nuclear ultimatum. Now here's where things get serious. Russia's recent nuclear doctrine suggests that it may resort to nuclear weapons if it perceives an existential threat. According to the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace, this doctrine is not just theoretical, it has been used as a tool of political coercion. Imagine being at a poker table where one player keeps raising the stakes with threats of nuclear action. It creates an atmosphere of fear and uncertainty. This nuclear posturing is not merely about deterrence, it's also about sending a message. Russia wants NATO to understand that any military intervention or increased support for Ukraine could escalate into something far more dangerous. The rhetoric surrounding nuclear weapons has become increasingly aggressive, with high-ranking officials in Moscow making statements that leave little room for interpretation. Chapter 2: The Role of China. A desperate reset. In this high-stakes game, Russia is turning its gaze towards Beijing for support. With Western sanctions crippling its economy, Moscow is seeking a desperate reset in its foreign relations. The relationship between Russia and China has evolved into a strategic partnership, particularly in energy and military cooperation. China has emerged as a crucial ally for Russia amid increasing isolation from the West. The two countries are collaborating on various fronts: military exercises, joint ventures in technology, and energy agreements that benefit both nations economically. Economic collaboration. China has become one of Russia's largest trading partners. Recent reports indicate that trade between the two nations has surged to over $200 billion annually. This collaboration is not just about economics, it's also about military alignment. As both nations face pressure from the West, their partnership could reshape global alliances. For instance, in September 2024, China and Russia signed agreements aimed at boosting bilateral trade and enhancing military cooperation. This included discussions about joint military drills and technology sharing, an alarming prospect for NATO countries who see this as an attempt to counterbalance Western influence. Energy dependency. One key area of collaboration is energy dependency. China is increasingly relying on Russian oil and gas to fuel its growing economy. In fact, reports suggest that China plans to import over 1 million barrels of oil per day from Russia by 2025. This not only provides Russia with much-needed revenue, but also strengthens China's energy security amidst fluctuating global markets. Chapter 3: NATO's Response. Strengthening Alliances. In response to these threats, NATO is reinforcing its eastern flank. Member countries are increasing military spending and enhancing their readiness levels. The Atlantic Council reports that NATO's collective defense strategy is increasingly focused on countering Russian aggression through enhanced deterrence measures. Countries like Poland and the Baltic states are particularly concerned about their security and have called for increased NATO presence in their regions. In response, NATO has deployed additional troops and resources to Eastern Europe, aiming to reassure these nations while sending a clear message to Moscow. Aggression will not be tolerated. Public perception. But how does the public feel about this? Surveys indicate that citizens in NATO countries are becoming more aware of the potential risks posed by Russia's actions. This growing concern could influence political decisions in member states, leading to stronger unified responses against Moscow. In many NATO countries, public sentiment has shifted dramatically over the past year. People are increasingly supportive of military spending and active engagement in Eastern Europe as they recognize the potential threat posed by Russian expansionism. Chapter 4. The Global Implications. Economic Fallout. The economic fallout from this geopolitical tension could be significant. If Russia were to cut off energy supplies completely, Europe could face an energy crisis that might lead to soaring prices and economic instability. Imagine filling up your car with gas and seeing prices skyrocket overnight. Frightening, right? The repercussions would not be limited to Europe alone. Global markets would react swiftly to such disruptions. Countries heavily reliant on energy imports would face inflationary pressures that could lead to widespread economic unrest. Military escalation. Furthermore, the potential for military escalation cannot be ignored. If Russia perceives NATO's actions as aggressive, it could lead to increased military confrontations in Eastern Europe, or even beyond. The situation in Ukraine serves as a stark reminder of how quickly things can escalate. Should NATO decide to provide more substantial military aid or even direct intervention in Ukraine, we could find ourselves on the brink of a larger conflict involving multiple nations, a scenario no one wants but seems increasingly plausible. Chapter 5. What lies ahead? Analysts suggest several scenarios for the future of NATO-Russia relations, ranging from diplomatic resolutions to increased conflict, with the outcome largely dependent on how both sides navigate these turbulent waters. There may still be room for dialogue if both NATO and Russia are willing to compromise. However, unchecked rhetoric could lead to escalations and direct confrontations. Additionally, economic warfare is expected to intensify, with the West imposing sanctions while Russia manipulates energy supplies to exert pressure on NATO economies. This complex interplay of diplomacy, military readiness, and economic tactics will shape the geopolitical landscape in the coming years. What do you think? Are we on the brink of something larger, or can diplomacy prevail? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Your perspective matters. Chapter 6. The Role of Media Narratives. Media narratives play a crucial role in shaping public perception regarding international conflicts. In today's world where information spreads rapidly through social media platforms, how stories are framed can influence opinions significantly. For instance, sensational headlines can create fear or urgency around issues like nuclear threats or economic instability, leading people to react emotionally rather than rationally. It's essential for viewers like you to seek out balanced information rather than relying solely on sensationalized news reports. Moreover, misinformation poses another challenge in understanding these complex geopolitical dynamics. It's easy for narratives to become distorted when they travel through various channels online, making it vital for consumers of news to critically evaluate sources before forming opinions. Chapter 7. The Human Element. While we often discuss geopolitical strategies and military maneuvers, let's not forget about the human element involved in all this chaos. Civilians caught in conflict zones who bear the brunt of these decisions made by leaders thousands of miles away. In Ukraine alone, millions have been displaced due to ongoing hostilities. a humanitarian crisis that requires urgent attention from global leaders and organizations alike. As citizens of the world grapple with these realities, there's an opportunity for global solidarity among people who desire peace over conflict, an essential reminder that behind every statistic lies a human story worth telling. Chapter 8: International Reactions. Global Perspectives. Countries outside of NATO are closely monitoring the unfolding events between Russia and Western powers, as their responses will significantly shape future international relations. For instance, China continues to strengthen its strategic partnership with Russia while carefully balancing its interests with Western economies, reflecting a complex geopolitical maneuvering. Meanwhile, India, traditionally neutral, is increasingly aligning itself with Western powers due to shared democratic values, which may lead it to navigate intricate diplomatic waters in this evolving landscape. Additionally, nations in Africa and Latin America may perceive this conflict through unique historical lenses, influencing their positions on sanctions or support measures based on their specific relationships with both Russia and the West. This multifaceted dynamic underscores the importance of understanding how various global actors will respond to the ongoing tensions, as their decisions could have far-reaching implications for international stability. Chapter 9: Technological Warfare. Cybersecurity Threats. As traditional warfare evolves into hybrid forms, including cyber warfare tactics, Russia has demonstrated its capabilities through cyber attacks targeting critical infrastructure within NATO countries, such as power grids and financial systems, raising global alarms about national security preparedness against digital threats. Recent incidents have highlighted the vulnerabilities nations face not only from conventional attacks, but also from sophisticated cyber intrusions aimed at destabilizing economies without firing a single shot. Cybersecurity experts emphasize that collaborative efforts among nations must be prioritized moving forward to ensure robust defenses against potential breaches while fostering transparency regarding cyber activities conducted by state actors. With the increasing frequency of these attacks, it is crucial for countries to bolster their cybersecurity measures and work together to mitigate risks associated with this evolving threat landscape. Thank you for joining us on this journey through one of today's most pressing geopolitical issues. If you found this video informative and engaging, please give us a thumbs up. What are your thoughts on Russia's actions? Do you think NATO will respond effectively? Leave your comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more insightful content.